Evening all, if you happen to be watching this. Just dropping out a tweet real quick. Drop a message in chat if you're in. Razamu and hello. Sorry if I said that all wrong. Kind of looks right. Thanks for joining, by the way. Since you might be the only one in here, can you tell me things look okay? Sound okay? You can hear my voice and see the screen. I'm going to switch to a browser. Hopefully you can see my browser here. I have the IPDB screen up. All right, cool. Cynic XCR, hello. Thanks for joining. I'm going to give it just a second. By the way, this evening's drink is sponsored, well, it's sponsored by me. This is Buffalo Trace. So the plan here is really just to code until I hit Ballmer's Peak. I'm just kidding. Actually, not going to be doing a whole lot of coding tonight. It's going to be more talking about Vim and about using Vim as an IDE and how I use Vim, because I do pretty much all my coding in Vim, all of it, whether that's Python, whether that's C#, really, and that's pretty much it. Even PowerShell, because I'll run PowerShell on my machine. So in this particular case, if you missed last week's hey, Flying Vic, how are you? Is it what time is it in Norway? Is it like 5 a.m. there? It's 5 a.m., isn't it? I don't even know how you're up. This is insanity. I will try and keep it brief for your sake, my friend, because I have a feeling you're just gonna hit a wall here soon. Anyways, if you missed last week's stream, I talked all about tmux. I didn't record it because I'm a total streaming noob and I really don't know anything about streaming. So, 205. Okay, so better than wait, how's it 205? You time traveling? Anyways, so last week talked all about tmux. Talked about how I use tmux and really just the benefits, in my opinion, of using tmux as a workflow tool. Apologies, I did not record it, but here we are. So tonight we're talking all about Vim, specifically NeoVim. We're going to dive into my RC file. By the way, if you look at my channel, my dot files are out there, so you can go out there and link to them. And I'll show you how I do git commits from Vim, how I do edits from Vim, and some of the best productivity tools. Basically, just how I use Vim in a workflow scenario, because I think that can really be mystifying. And quite honestly, it took me a long time to figure out how I want to use Vim and how I want to make use of it in a productivity scenario. So first things first, just diving in. Might drop off halfway. That is unacceptable, my friend. I expect you to do what you have to do to hang in there. So in this case, I'm using NVim. If you're not familiar with NVim, it's really just NeoVim, which has things like Python and Ruby packaged in, if those are the builds that you want. To install, I am running Arch Linux. If you're using Debian or Ubuntu or some sort of Debian distro, you're going to use apt install NeoVim. In my case, I use Pacman. Hey, 0xSV1, I know that handle. Welcome. Can't believe you made it. You guys blow me away. Seriously, there is like 10 o'clock p.m. I'm out like a light. And I don't even know how it's possible. Yeah, I know. So like after the stream, I'm going to be on Xbox playing Division 2, by the way. And then I play, like my evening routine is I play from like 8:30 to 10. at 10 o'clock rolls around, I'm like, I'm finished. I just can't handle it. So alcohol or not, it's just, I don't know, maybe I'm getting old, I don't know. Anyways, to install Vim, especially if you're like if you're a VS Code user, I understand, but hopefully we're going to try and break you of that habit, because VS Code is awesome, and you get no debate out of me. However, Vim is awesomer, and that's just the way it is. So, from my my system using Arch, I'm going to use Pacman. I have, by the way, I use right in the second wind, totally. By the way, I may use a truckload of aliases, just because aliases are my friend. So if I will try and call out my aliases whenever I can, but in this case, PM is short for Pacman, which, if you're not an Arch user, is basically just a version of APT. So Pacman-S for installing NeoVim. In this case, I actually already have NeoVim installed, so I'm not going to install it, but installing it is very simple. So opening that up, that's here we are. We're now live. And by the way, for anyone that really, I get the jokes, because sometimes they're funny, but just Q to quit. Now that that's out of the way, we can get back in. So in the case of NeoVim, by the way, I'm using an alias for Vim instead of if I type Vim, it actually launches nvim. So there we go. I think I know that handle. L1NKD34D. Are you using Vim yet? If you're not, I think you might be, but I'm not sure. For actual coding, that's what I really want to know, because I thought you were a code person, like, for the longest time, and so now I'm curious to see if you're actually going to make the cutover. Okay. So looking at Vim, one of the very first things that you all are going to need is you're going to need a init.vim file, especially if you're using nvim. So all of that is stored in the .config directory. Okay, so in my .config directory. Okay, here's my init.vim. Now you'll notice that I have it symlinked to my .files repo. This way it's just easy for me to make updates to it, and then I just commit those updates and you all see them, and everything is stored in one nice tidy repo, and it just makes life easy. So in this particular case, for the init.vim file, this is really where all the plugins are stored and everything like that. After this stream I will be. Yes, you will, my friend. Okay, I'm going to drop a shortcut on you to get to my Vim file, and I'll explain what that shortcut is in a second, but that is -vrc. That actually edits my Vim file. So you will see right away that I have a truckload of plugins installed. And I'm going to be totally honest here. A lot of these plugins I actually don't use. So for example, NerdTree, this particular plugin, a lot of people use NerdTree because it's handy. So this is what NerdTree looks like, and you can actually, dive into, things like that. And it looks really cool. But the thing is that NerdTree, in my opinion, is a slow way of navigating the file system. Now, I say that, and I have to be careful, because a lot of people use NerdTree, and they use it and they love it, and that's great. It's not, in my opinion, there are faster ways to navigate the file system, and I will break down what those are. In my opinion, a lot of that really boils down to things like FZF. FZF is by far one of the most important plugins that I think I could really use and make use of in my workflow. It is absolutely outstanding, and I'll dive into the installation routine for that sort of thing in just a second. But diving these plugins in particular, the ones that I'm going to be covering are the ones that I really use most, and that's going to be FZF and Vim Fugitive. Those, and Ale. So Ale is really just a really nice linter. It can lint Ansible, it can lint Python, and when I say lint, what I mean is that Ale is essentially a Vim wrapper for various linters, and I'll describe what that looks like. Okay, ton of different options here. A lot of them don't necessarily need to be broken out for for these purposes, you can tell I'm using the OneDark color scheme. OneDark does get installed if you do happen to like OneDark. Color schemes get installed just like other plugins. So in this case, OneDark, I have Groovebox. So if I want to switch color scheme, Groovebox, and here we are. So, but personally, I've been on a OneDark kick for a while, so been liking that. All right. The options that are going to be most important from this particular list have to do, where was I? Okay. Oh, there it is. Number and relative number. Let's turn off number and relative number for a second, because this is one of the best navigational tricks that I know of. If you're not familiar with how Vim works from a navigational standpoint, Vim is very, very, very centered on, how shall I put this, maximum keyboard efficiency. So navigation is the H, J, K, L keys. H to go left, L to go right, J to go down, and K to go up. Okay, so if I want to go over, just like this, all I'm hitting is the H, J, L, K keys. All right, so being able to jump around in a file quickly is really important, because what you don't want to be doing is this. I'm just holding down these keys. Let's say I want to get to that word plugin down there. This is the worst way of going about it. Okay, a better way of going about it would be to search for it. All right, and the search command is really just /. And again, that's one stroke off of home row to hit the /, and that is to search down. To search up, we're looking at the question mark. So relative number, and I search up, and there I am. Now, relative number, if I turn on number, set number, I now see the line that I'm on, and I can jump to the various lines by hitting colon and then the line number that I want to get to. Okay, but that's great if I know the line number that I want to get to. What if I just want to go down a certain amount of lines? And that is where relative numbering comes into play. So set relative number. Okay, now I can see what line I'm on, and if you see these numbers down here and these numbers up here are relative to the number that I'm on. Now, this is outstanding, because this is one of those cases where if I want to jump down 3 lines, I can hit 3J, and Vim with the number and then action syntax, which they have. So you type in a number, and then you type in how many times you want that particular thing to occur, and then you type in what you want to occur. So for example, if I want to go down 7 lines, I would hit 7 and then J, and now I've gone down 7 lines. So if I want to get back up to the file type line, 3 lines above, 3K, oops, 3K to get back up, and here I am. Okay. So relative numbering and numbering are just 2 of the best tools in the toolbox that I have as far as very, very simple, straightforward navigation. That and searching forward and searching back are really, really handy. So again, that's /. I want to get to map leader, enter, and here I am on that word. Now, there are a whole slew of actions for doing things like editing words and going forward and navigating and things like that. The single best tip that I can give to anyone who really, really wants to learn Vim is to understand that Vim is a language. It seriously is. In terms of the navigation, the manipulation of text, Vim is purely a language. And once you learn how to speak that language, you'll find that, and this sounds super corny, all right, don't make fun of me and don't tell anyone I said this, but you'll find that you essentially have a conversation with Vim. You type in certain things in Vim's language and things happen on the screen. And it's actually a very, very pleasant experience in my mind. Now, here's the thing. Just like learning any language, like if I want to learn Spanish, right, there's going to be a point where I know just a couple of words. And with just those couple of words, I can do things like find the bathroom or order 3 beers, okay? And then find the bathroom. Like, that's really what I can do in Spanish, all right? Tres cervezas, por favor, and donde está el baño. That's it. That's all I got, all right? And so those things, that, like, you can't really have a conversation. And it's a little frustrating because somebody starts talking back at you in a language you don't understand, and you're like, what just happened? And that's why people get super frustrated with Vim, because number one, they can't say the most basic term, which is like exit, all right, which is just :WQ or :Q. And that's a really important thing to wrap your mind around, is that if you simply think of Vim as a series of commands, and you're just like, I'm just going to enter in all these commands and stuff's going to work, you're not going to have the experience that you think you are, and that's problematic. And so the way to have success with Vim is to understand that there is a language and a cadence to that language, and once you learn how to speak it, and by speaking I mean like become conversant in, you'll find that you can move throughout a document with fluidity, and it's a really much more pleasant experience. Okay. Couple other things to talk about, and then we'll actually get into practical Vim usage. The leader key is one of the most important keys that you will need to understand. So if you were here for my tmux stream, you will know that in tmux there is a bind key, and the bind key is essentially just a prefix key that tells the system that I'm going to do something in tmux. So for example, my tmux bind key is Control-A. So if I want to split the window, the command to do so is Control-A and then V. Okay, and I split the window. All right, Vim also has what's essentially a prefix key. And in Vim, you can map that. In this case, the leader key is what Vim considers to be the quote-unquote prefix key. My leader key is mapped to comma, and the reason why I map it to comma is, number one, it's really easy to get to, and number two, you don't begin a sentence with comma, and you don't begin a command with comma. Or not, in my case, if I do begin a command with comma, it's because I want to actually do something inside of Vim. So, some of these are for, by the way, undo is U. So you just saw me like screw something up. That was the U key. So if I do something stupid, U key brings it all back. All right. So these particular commands all have to do with Vim Fugitive, which I will talk about in just a little bit. And Vim Fugitive is absolutely amazing. Nerd Tree, like I said, I have it, but I don't really use it because I use FZF. We will get into FZF in just a little bit. But what you're seeing is Vimscript Syntax for doing things inside of Vim very quickly. So for example, if I want to source my init.vim, I would type comma src. Now I haven't made any changes, however, that's essentially what happened. The syntax on the very end, brackets, less than CR, greater than, that has to do with just entering a carriage return. That's Vim syntax for carriage return. So otherwise, it would just type the command up for you and wait for you to hit enter. Okay, so VRC is, or leader VRC is my shortcut way of editing my Vim file. So if I close out of this buffer, BD closes out of the existing buffer. A buffer is simply just an open memory space in Vim that's mapped to a file. Or it can be mapped to an actual directory. So if you've never edited a directory in Vim, home json.files. Oops. There you go. That's what it looks like. Closing out of that buffer, we have this. Now, there is something that I did want to mention, and that is that a lot of people use tabs in Vim the way that you would use tabs in Visual Studio Code. So, for example, Vim has a tab. So if I want to open a new tab, I would just hit Tab E and then temp foo.text. Okay, now I have this particular tab open. I can do some stuff, words, and then save it. That was my Vim shortcut, which is comma W for saving the current file. Okay, and then you can also flip back and forth between tabs. Now here's kind of the issue with using tabs, is that it's not as performant as using buffers. You can flip back and forth between using tabs and using buffers and things like that. And however, Vim is meant that when you think of a tab in Visual Studio Code, think of a buffer in Vim. When you think of a project in Visual, or say a folder in Visual Studio Code, think of a tab in Vim. So Vim, you could have multiple buffers open to that tab. And what's important to understand is that a project is really what a tab is meant to be in Vim. It's not like a tab in, say, Finder or Code or Visual Studio or things like that, where you have one tab open per file, because you're doing a lot of unnecessary navigation at that point, and you really don't need to be doing that. The Vim buffering system is really the way to go in terms of fast file navigation, and I'll dive into that in just a little bit. Okay, so closing out that particular tab, this is back to where I was before. Using my /b opens up different buffers, and this is where we start getting into the good part about Vim navigation. So let's change directories into my .files directory. Can't find directory, cd. I am in the, well, where did I put my .files? Oh yeah, it's in my tools directory. Okay, cd tools .files. Okay, there it is. All right. So now you see, when you cd in Vim, you are changing essentially Vim's directory. You're not changing the operating system directory. You're changing Vim's directory. And why is that important? The reason why that's important is because Vim is contextually aware of where you are in the operating system and how you're saving files and where you're saving files. This is particularly important when it comes to tools like FCF. If you have never used FCF, let's take a look at it. Okay. FCF in Vim is one of the most powerful plugins that I know of to navigate inside of Vim. And here's the thing, it's not simply just Vim, it is also the entire operating system you can use FCF for. So I use FCF to navigate my history. You can use FCF to do fuzzy finding in Vim itself, or in if you want to cd to a directory but you don't know what the directory name is, you use FCF. Okay. Installing FCF is really just as simple as what I was showing you in terms of the actual Vim plugin. Okay. If we go back to FCF, the plugin itself, there are 2 plugins that have to be installed in order to get this working in Vim. All right. Now, I haven't really talked too much about the plugins themselves, and I'm kind of saving FCF because that's absolutely the best. All right. Let's do this. I'm not going to save anything just yet. Let's SSH over to my Arch VM. And you know what? I'm not exactly a big fan of that particular prompt because it looks too much like my Arch prompt. So Vim locate pi.zsh theme Vim user share. Actually, do I have FCF installed? I don't. Okay. Vim user share. Oh my themes pi. Okay. Let's change that prompt real quick. And we will save it. You know, I'm not sure what color. Pick a color, any color. What's the first one? What's the first one? Somebody choose a color from that number list. Wow. Is there like only 2 people on? 160. All right. What's 160 look like? 160. All right, so we're going with a red prompt. All right. That is if memory. Yeah, here we go. F160. All right. So we'll change that. Go with the Star Wars symbol. And then source. Hey, that looks better. Now I can tell that I'm actually on my box, or on my Arch VM. Good call with 160. It looks kind of nice. All right. So now that we got that handled, let's get, where was I going with this? I was going with Vim Plug. All the Vim plugins are stored in the .vim directory, plugged. So I actually have all my plugins installed already. However, what I use in this particular case is, Vim Plug. Vim Plug is just a really, really fast way of installing various Vim plugins. All you got to do is, in the case of Linux, you basically just run this command. Actually, I shouldn't say that because I work in security. You look at these various files first to make sure that nothing nefarious is happening when you run a shell command from something that pulls something out of GitHub, which is actually rather just terrifying. So in my case, I would look this over carefully, and I actually do that. Anytime you run a shell command or pipe something out to bash or whatever, please, for goodness sake, actually look at what you're running before you do so. But you just run this, and that basically creates the directory structure and brings down the Vim Plug code. In this particular case, this author writes a lot of Vim plugins. I hate to say this, but if you want to pwn a ton of people, just, I don't know, send up some kind of nasty commit. I shouldn't suggest that. That's my evil mind. This guy has written lots of plugins, and Vim Plug is really one of the best. I believe this is also the same author of FCF? I think it is. Yep, same author of FCF and FCF Vim. So generally, pretty well trustworthy from my standpoint at least. So bringing down Vim Plug and then installing FCF. Pipe everything to bash. Yeah, I just don't know about that. I just don't think that's a good idea. Okay, so opening up Vim and then looking at, this is the exact same VRC file that I have. To install the plugins, plug install. And we'll see that they're actually already installed. Now this is the fun part where we actually get to use FCF. This is what FCF looks like. Okay, let's switch to, actually, first things first. What I'm going to do is I'm going to start up a tmux session on my VM, tm new, and we're just going to, actually, do I have one? TMLS? No, tm new, we're going to call this main. Okay, now I have two tmux sessions. If you missed last week's session, the way that I alternate between commands, because I am SSH'd, and this is where tmux can get confusing, is in my tmux.conf file, I have the F6 command mapped to switch between my main tmux session on my primary machine and my SSH'd tmux session on my SSH machine. So, for example, right now I'm on my main tmux session, my primary one up here, that's called stream, and I have one running in SSH down here called main. And if I want to switch, if I want to open up a new pane in my main stream session, my particular bind key for this is Control A and then V, and you'll see that I'm on my Arch desktop. However, if I want to open up, let's say I want to open up a new tmux pane session down here on my inside of my SSH session, I would hit F6 and then the same command, and now I am back into, I'm still in my SSH session. By the way, that also goes for detaching from sessions. In my case, Control A S, I detach and I'm still in my SSH system, and that tmux session is still running. So the nice thing is that I can just disconnect, go do something else, come back, I take a look, I see that my main session is still running, and then I reconnect to that. This is an alias for tmux session attach, and then connect to that main instance. And now I have all my stuff back up and running. I'm actually pretty happy about that. Okay, so in the case of running Vim and running FCF, I do have FCF installed. Okay. If you have never used FCF, this is what FCF looks like, and it's absolutely a thing of beauty. If you just run FCF, in this case, what we're seeing now is the various files on my system, and it is a fuzzy file searcher. So if I just type .files and then i3 and then config, you see what I've typed up here. I've typed dot space i3 space co, and it knew basically exactly what I wanted. Okay. This also works inside of Vim, and this is where navigation becomes amazing. So I'm going to cd to my .files directory, and I'm going to Vim. Okay, in Vim, the same command, pwd, is going to show me that I'm inside my .files directory. This gets important because this is where FZF is going to look by default when you type the FZF command, which is :files. Okay, so now it is only looking inside of my current working directory, which is my .files directory. Now, in my case, files. Okay, I have two commands mapped because sometimes I want to look outside that directory, right? But sometimes I want to look at my entire home directory. So in this case, I have leader lowercase f for my just my current working directory, and then leader uppercase f for my entire home directory. And so that is a easy way to get into navigation. Now, using FZF, this is where the power comes in, because FZF also works with your buffers. So if let's say that I want to open up my PyCom config file. All I did was type PIC, and here I am inside of PyCom, and I'm inside of a different buffer. Okay, so being inside that different buffer, how do I switch back? FZF is able to do that. Now in this case, I only have two buffers open, and I'm using the leader B to switch back and forth. Okay, leader B is just mapped to :buffer. All right, let's say I open more files. All right, let's open my i3 file. Let's open my polybar file. Now I have multiple buffers open, and all I have to do to navigate between any of them using FZF is :B, and then a couple letters, and I'm back where I was. Okay, you can use tabs again. You can use tabs to do this. If you're just stuck on tabs, that's fine. Believe me when I tell you, though, this is the faster way of navigating inside of Vim, is using FZF, because again, Vim is a language. Once you get used to typing and the cadence and the speaking the Vim language, it gets really, really fast, really quickly, to be able to just be like, hey, I want to get to PyCom, here we are. And it really is that straightforward and simple. Questions about FZF? This is, like I said, some people use nerdtree. Some people are really cool, with nerdtree and, doing this kind of thing, and then going back over here, and then going down, and then opening that file. That is just not for me, because I can just type this and get where I need to be. The FZF also works with things like vertical splits and horizontal splits. So if I want to choose, let's choose my tmux file, or my tmux file, and then I can Control V and open that in a vertical split, and now I'm back and forth. Now, in this case, just looking at my window, I am in an SSH session, in a tmux session, in a Vim session with multiple Vim panes open. And that's kind of neat. And so all my tmux sessions right now or all my tmux commands are going to that right now. So if I need to do something on the local operating system, my tmux command to bring up a horizontal window is bind key, which is Control A and then hyphen, and I'm still on the local window. And I can split off that again and again. And this is really the power of using this sort of workflow. It is easy to just kind of fall into this cadence of your fingers very rarely leave home row to do just about anything, and it is simple to move back and forth in files, because these buffers are available, doesn't matter what split you're in, and that's actually super handy. Okay, now why open files in splits versus having just two terminal sessions open? Well, if you open files in splits, you have access to the Vim Copy Buffer. And so if I copy a file, which means I can use the exact same commands to do like a yank, for example. If I want to yank this whole line, if I want to copy this whole line, YY over here, and then paste it with just the P command. Okay, and you can use this for whole blocks. All right, so let's say I want to copy, 6 lines, 6 YY over here, and then paste them all in. And that's handy because I have two files open, it's straightforward, and now we see some fun things happening, which is the plus sign lit up, and this is where Vim Fugitive comes into play. Vim Fugitive is the cat's meow, the bee's knees, I don't know, what do the cool kids say? You guys have like no questions. I swear. I appreciate all 5 of you hanging in there. All right. I'm still looking at the pipe everything to bash. I looked at it and I just got kind of cringe a little bit. We need to talk. All right. Let's actually have a look at Vim Fugitive. I am board plate. How's it going? It's going good. It's Wednesday. It was crazy. It was sunny out where I live. I live in the northern Midwest. Sunny and snowing. And that just... I just have a problem with that. I don't know. There's just something not cool about that. I don't know. I don't know where you guys live, but... Mid-April, like you'd expect it to be just kind of nice outside. You walk outside, you're in a t-shirt, you're in jeans. You're like, this is going to be a great day. It's not. It's snowing. All right. Vim Fugitive. Actually, why am I closing on all this stuff? Sounds Norwegian. It's not. It's that. You know what's crazy? Where I live, it gets colder in the wintertime than it does in Norway, as far as I understand, as far as Norwegian winters go. Hold on. I'm going to prove this to you guys. Coldest winter temp. I don't know, I'm going to say we had one polar vortex like this. Boy, we did have one this last year. Now I'm actually really curious. Convert Fahrenheit to Celsius. I have no idea what Celsius is. Celsius kind of drives me nuts. Sorry, I know you guys can't see this. Oh, here. If it was, say, really, like on a really cold day where I live, in Celsius, that would be -28. -28, yeah. -28 degrees Celsius. That's what I'm saying. Now, I don't know how cold it gets in Norway, like for the average winter. But that is cold. Like, it was so cold. It got so cold. Actually, I'll do the quick math. The air temperature, this was, I think, this was last year. The air temperature was -35 Celsius. If you're American, that's -32 Fahrenheit. And it got so cold that I got in my truck to drive into town. And I was driving it and it said -32 right up on the temperature sensor. And my truck heater went all the way up, like spiked all the way into the red. And I'm like, what's going on? So I pulled over, and by the way, I don't know what's wrong with my camera. Camera looks red. Anyways, I pulled over, and I stopped the truck, and I had a suspicion in terms of what was going on. I got out, and the coolant pump where the coolant actually feeds into the radiator had frozen, and I grabbed it, and the reason why I knew this is because I grabbed it and I squished it and I felt the ice, and so I basically gave it like a little bit of CPR, and the coolant started flowing again. The truck cooled right down, and I drove away. That's when antifreeze freezes, there's a problem, and I need to move is really just what needs to happen. Oops. All right. Let's talk about Vim Fugitive. Okay. 28 is colder than it usually gets here in Oslo. I miss Oslo. I really do. I'm coming back. I'm coming back because Oslo was amazing. Okay. I keep saying I'm going to do this let's do it. Let's go to my dot files and let's open something up. I am pwd. I am in my dot files directory. Let's open up one of my dot files and let's look at Alice. If you've been interested in installing an Alice, or if you've been interested in installing an Arch virtual machine, but you never have, Alice is the way to go. Alice is what I use to install Arch on really anything that I need. Alice is, here, let's switch, Arch Linux install script. This is Alice. Where is it? Go to, where's the code? GitHub. No internet. That's just, there we go. Okay, that's beautiful. All right. With Alice, you get a ton of various scripts. The one that we're most interested in is alice.conf because that's where we actually specify the various installation parameters and things like that. But the issue with Arch, if you've never used Arch, I'm not going to get too much into it just because Arch can be, people can get a little, they don't like it because I use Arch, by the way. But anyways, if you've never used it, it's basically just a super stripped down version of Linux. And I like that because I don't want all of the telemetry that comes with, Ubuntu and stuff like that. And so I use a stripped down version of it, and then I install the packages that I want on top of that. And I find that actually works pretty well for me. But installing Arch is a huge pain, and the reason why it's a huge pain is because nothing happens automatically. You got to specify the partitions, you have to specify the size, you have to specify everything, and it's all just raw operating system commands. And people are used to things like, the Ubuntu installer. It's really just next finish, and then you're done. And that's great, but it's kind of not great because stuff is happening behind the scenes from, like a privacy standpoint that you might not know about. And so from my personal experience, I go with Arch just because I know that there's really no telemetry happening on the background unless it's happening from an application. But in this particular case, using the Alice installation script, the Arch Linux install script, you really just boot up to an Arch ISO, and then you fire off the script, and then it reboots, and you have an Arch virtual machine, or in my case, an Arch production machine. And then in my particular case, I use Ansible to actually build out, install the packages and do all the configuration and, put my dot files where they need to be and all that kind of stuff. Start to finish on a production machine, the Arch installation took me, I would say, probably about 2 hours to go all the way through, and then a little bit of configuration on top of that to get logged into stuff. But anyways, so editing this. Okay, because I am in an actual Git repo, okay, for my public repo, making changes to files and then committing those changes is just naturally part of a developer's flow, right? And so, appreciate the perspective on Arch. Encountered recently one of our devs at work. It's, like the seriously, and I'm not kidding. The best part about Arch is the memes. I'm not joking. It's the best. Like, if you're just, oh my gosh. Seriously. Arch memes. Where I think it's Reddit, there we go. That's what I need. The situation calls for Arch memes. Oh my gosh. If you need, block that. If you need to just crack up for a few minutes, just go check out Arch memes because it just warms my heart. Because apparently, and honestly, I'm not involved in the Arch community at all. Seriously, at all. And what I find so hilarious is that apparently, oh yeah, I didn't switch over. I'm scrolling. I'm on my channel. I'm scrolling through Arch memes because Arch memes are absolutely the best. But anyways, if you have never looked at oh man, what was I gonna say? I totally lost my train of thought. Anyways, from my standpoint, Arch is, in my opinion, it's stripped down and I like it, and that's really what it boils down to. And by the way, just a couple of benefits, and the big reason why I switched, because I had Ubuntu on my machine for, I don't know, over a year. I just ran 2004 LTS, and it's great, and I honestly I have no complaints. Ubuntu is, the system itself works just fine, and I really don't have any complaints about it. The only thing that I didn't like, and what caused me to be more interested in Arch, had to do with the fact that if I wanted to install something specific, why use Arch instead of raw Debian? So if I wanted to install something specific that wasn't in the apt, like the package manager or anything like that, so what I would have to do is I would have to go find a PPA, and then I would have to apt add repository, and now I got some dude's PPA in my apt list, and I don't know where it's coming from. And then I started having video driver problems. I have a NVIDIA 1080 Ti, right? Works great until I want it to fire up Cobalt Strike or something like that, which is a Java app. Now Java is trash, it's flaming hot trash, but that's besides the point. The point is that it did not work well at all and play nice with the video drivers that I was running because of the kernel version that I was on. Ubuntu was glued to a kernel version because it's not a rolling distribution. So there are two, and I swear I will get off the Arch soapbox in just a second. But the super nice thing, and really the only two things that caused me to move to Arch, is number one, it's a rolling distribution model. I've done updates a few times, never had anything break. And number two, the package management on Arch is second to none. There are really just two areas that you have to go to, and in order to install Arch packages. One of them is really just the Arch package manager. Package manager. Okay. That's actually Pacman. Let me grab, I got a bookmark here. Package search. Copy that over here. Okay. archlinux.org /packages. There are so many packages. Now, granted, the packages for Arch are on par with apt. Seriously. Where Arch stands out and where things totally change is in the AUR, which is the Arch user repository. In the Arch user repository, there are innumerable, I shouldn't say innumerable, there's actually 69,746 packages, which is pretty incredible. And so to give you all an idea of opinions on Black Arch, I'll come to that in just a second. To give you all an idea of, where am I? Okay. This is my Ansible Playbook. Actually, let's open that and read only. Okay. So when I build out my Arch production machine, I install various packages and stuff like that. But the AUR has a ton of other packages. For example, this is where things get fun. I install my nerd fonts, I install Brave, I install tmux, I install JQ, Polybar, Lightcord, all the various apps that I want to get installed. And I might do a separate stream on actually building out the Ansible Playbook to install, for an Arch VM. But this is really where the power is because in these two repositories, I'm not going to say literally everything I need, because there are definitely times that I go out to Git and I still use Git for, just grabbing a particular tool, some sort of really specific tool that just is not available in the AUR. But in, I would say, 90% of cases, I am simply just going out to the AUR, the Arch user repository, or just using the regular Arch package search. And that just handles everything. Honestly, I have never used Black Arch before. Never. And the reason being is because if I need a particular attack distro, I'll use either General Kali, or right now, most of the machines that I do my attacks from are Ubuntu, and that's because they're in the cloud. So, for example, if I'm using an EC2 instance, it's going to be an Ubuntu instance. I actually have not checked to see if Arch is even available as an image in AWS. I honestly have no idea. That'd be really interesting. But opinions on Black Arch, chances are it works great. And it's got a ton of tools installed. It's also probably very similar to Kali, which is that it has a truckload of tools installed that I will never use. And I am much more the kind of person where I like to know what my tools are doing, and therefore I really only install what I need at the time. And that also keeps me in the habit of researching new tools and staying in GitHub and looking at new stuff, as opposed to just kind of, firing and forgetting and not really knowing exactly what my tool set is doing. So chances are, from a distro perspective, Black Arch is great, but for my needs, it's just not something that I normally do, because I normally run really, really lightweight. But maybe I say all that in ignorance, and Black Arch is only 500 meg in size. I have no idea. But what I wanted to show you guys is Vim Fugitive. You got me talking about Arch. I am sorry, because apparently the Arch community is like a ton of bros that are just like really, really purist about it, and I'm not at all. Like, I'm a total user, and so it's one of those things where I use it because I like it and it's simple, but I'm not a purist about it. I mean, in my opinion, use what works for you. So I'm using i3 as my window manager, so just a quick look around. Yeah, so this is what my full desktop looks like. In the right, I'm running OBS, and then the chat client, which is what you see overlaid, and then just a little tickler file that I have. But that's the full look and feel of my desktop. This is just i3 gaps, and so the truth is that I was running something very, very similar on Ubuntu, and it works fine. Use what you like is my viewpoint on that. But I definitely favor free and open source software, generally because the lack of telemetry, and I can inspect it and I can see what that code is doing at any time. I keep talking about Vim Fugitive, so let's actually do Vim Fugitive. Where was I? I was in Alice. Looking at the directory, I'm in my .files. Let's open Alice conf, and let's make some changes to this. Okay, Vim Fugitive is it's a plugin that was written by Tim Pope, who is probably one of the foremost Vim plugin developers. That the dude he's forgotten more about Vim than I will ever know. However, in his case, he wrote a plugin that integrates Vim very closely with Git. And if you write code in Vim, and you're going to want to integrate it with Git, so you can do your commits, and that way I'm not having to do something like crud. I'm not having to do something. Where am I? Hold on. Get out of there. Now I'm getting lost in my own. Okay. Yeah, .files. Okay. Alice. Packages. Okay. And so if I make a change, I'm not having to do something like let me fix my chat window real quick. There we go. Okay. I make here's a common problem. I make a change in a particular file, and then you go down here and you git add some file name, and then you git commit some file name, and then you git push some file name, and now I got this other window open, and I have to exit the window, and I have to go back to my file. It's super irritating, right? I don't want to do that. Nobody wants to do that. This is where Vim Fugitive comes into play, because Vim Fugitive understands Git repositories and understands the working context of where you are inside of Vim. This is what I use day in, day out. I am continuously working on things like Python projects and stuff like that, and then I'm making commits and changes to those repos. And I use Vim Fugitive for all of that. So let's say that I have these two comments here, right here, and I want to get rid of these two comments. So let's 2dd for trashing those lines, and then I save. And then let's add let's add NeoVim, and I'm going to install regular Vim as well. Okay. Save that. Okay. We will see that if I run, oh, there it is. See the slash right here? This means that I have changed something in Vim, and this is Vim Fugitive telling me that I have changes inside this file. The negative line right here is Vim Fugitive telling me that I have changes inside this file, or that I have deletions inside this file. Let's open up my bash alias file, and let's add let's add a new alias. Alias. What do I add alias for? Alias nm for nmap. Something super simple. Okay, and now we have a plus sign showing that I've made changes to this file. Now, in my Vim file, I have mapped these commands right here. Okay, leader, which again is a comma, and then GA for get add. The capital G there is really just short for get. And then GS for get status, GC for get commit, and then GP for get push origin master. Now, your thoughts on pushing a master, whatever. In this case, most of the repos that I work on, I push to master. You can obviously change this and push to, whatever repo you want. Okay, but those are the ones that I use continuously. One important thing that I want to mention is the percent sign. Oops. The percent sign, that is Vimscript speak for the current file. And so in this case, I'm adding the path to the current file that I'm working on. And so that's important to note. So if we switch back to my bash alias file, again, that was leader B to open up my buffer menu. Okay, if we switch back to this, and let's say I want to commit this change, I can do all this without leaving Vim. And so to add it, that is leader GA. So I add the file, you notice the plus sign disappears. Okay, to check the status, leader GS, oops, that's the commit, sorry, leader GS, I see that I have a change to be committed right here. I have this file added, alias bat, or alias is bash alias. And then let's say I want to commit, GC. Now it's going to prompt me for a message. Okay, I hit I to insert because we have to get into Vim Insert Mode. And then I'm going to do something as simple as added nm alias, and then I'm going to save and quit this buffer with :wq. All right, now you can see the message down here for the typical git commit file, and then leader gp to do the push, and now it's out of my git repo. All of that without leaving Vim. In my opinion, that right there makes Vim an outstanding productivity tool, simply because I can do all these kinds of commits. Now here's the thing, code could do all this stuff too, but here's what the single biggest thing that I honestly don't like is I don't like my hand moving over to touch the mouse. I don't like that. I would much rather keep all my fingers on home row at all times and do the modifications that way, because the keyboard is simply just a faster means of input, and my preferred way of going about it. So that is Vim Fugitive, and essentially how I use Vim Fugitive. Last thing that I want to show you guys is I mentioned some C#. I don't know. Every time, I don't know. Maybe you guys totally feel differently, but every time I reach for the mouse, I feel like there's a better way to do it. Like that reminds me of like code smell. You know what I mean? Where it's just like I look at a chunk of code and I'm like, no, something is wrong here. There's a better, faster, easier way of doing this. What is Vim? Shoot, I actually don't know what Vim Unique is. Let's have a look. I totally forgot. Aha! It's Tim Pope. So it's fine, you see. Oh, right. There you go. You can run operating system commands from... Oh, yeah, that's why I wanted that. I wanted it to be able to copy and move files from within Vim and not have to go to a shell. Does he have an example? He doesn't have an example. Rename a buffer and the file on disk simultaneously. All right, let's check that out. Let's open a new file, temp foo.txt. Hey, I already have foo.txt. All right. And then move to temp bar.txt. If this works, so down here, you could probably hardly see it, but I have temp foo. Oh, shoot, sorry. Back to the right scene. So down here, I have temp foo.txt open. And then if I type :move and then temp bar, let's see what happens. If this works, it will change the buffer name and the file name. Okay, and then failed to rename temp foo.txt to temp bar.txt. Randall EX, thanks for joining, and thanks for making a comment. I appreciate it. So when you don't know what to do in Vim, help, is it H, move? There we go. Like save as, but deletes the old file. Okay, so move to temp bar.txt. I'm pretty sure that's what I did. Yeah, move temp bar. Failed to rename temp foo to something else. Oh, what am I missing here, Tim Pope? You looked at, yes, I know. He's actually put out a few videos, and not to be too horribly judgmental, but he does. Yes, he does. By the way, in Vim, you can get to help anywhere just simply by typing :H and then just whatever your topic is. So move file like save as, but so I can see it's part of Unique. And then move, but deletes the old file afterwards. I feel like that's what it should be. Do we need quotes for that? Argument required. That's interesting. Okay, so not quite what I was expecting in terms of behavior. It ended up moving temp foo, and it didn't want a full path for some reason. So now I'm in, so I would have to switch. Let's say that I wanted that file. Let's say right now I have bar.txt in my .files directory. If I wanted to move it, I would have to switch to temp. Oh. You have to go to sleep. I don't know. Not approved. Denied. No, man. Thanks for joining. Always good to hear from you. Have a great night. We'll see you in chat tomorrow. So if I wanted to move this file using Vim Unique, I don't know why he called it that. It's kind of fun to say though. Let's go to temp and then move foo.txt. Failed to rename. Move bar. Move temp foo. Do we really need another argument here? No. Okay, sudo edit. Rename a buffer. Sorry, I didn't mean to derail. You totally did. And now you got me, like... Now you get me interested. Second solution, close Vim for solution. Plugin for naming file is called Vim Unique. So this worked once, and I'm not sure why. Vim editor modes. I'm gonna give it like another 30 seconds, and if I can't figure it out. Moving files within Vim. This is where I was. We could actually just dig into the code here. Let's see what this looks like. Move. Problem is that I'm not a Vim scripter. Source equal. Okay, so grab the arguments. If it's a directory, okay. File is readable. Interesting. Keep alt save as. Yeah, that one has me interesting, or that one has me puzzled. Bar.text. Yeah. Failed to rename. Delete the old file afterwards. That is in like why don't we try rename? Okay, that worked. So we have renamed bar.text to foo.text on disk. And we've renamed the buffer. You would think that move would essentially do the same thing, but apparently it doesn't. Yeah, so I'm not entirely sure. Looks like rename. Yeah. Interesting. Because in this case, renamed the buffer as well as the file on disk. Anyways, well, that's interesting. Tonight I learned. You're still seeing my browser. Thanks. Sorry. So in this case, I have bar.text. Move to a new directory. Shoot. That's probably it. No, because I thought you could... Yeah, hold on. Let's try it. So, he's probably right. So I have .files, bar.text. If I move that, first of all, if I rename that to foo.text, that worked. And now I have foo.text down here. If I move that to temp, doggone it. Man, you so smart. Look at that. ls temp. It does want a directory, and it updated the path. Man, this guy right here. You should have your boss give you a raise. Didn't even Google it. Okay. It's fun to pull out just kind of obscure Vim plugins. By the way, if there are Vim plugins that you guys use that are just killer and you absolutely love, let me know, because I'm always on the hunt for more. But Vim, and it's also one of those things where I just want to get plugins unnecessarily. Like I really should get. So in my case, I'm gonna get rid of Nerd Tree. Mostly because I don't use it. There is a plugin, and I need to. I was googling before. I was googling before the live stream, and I cannot remember which plugin it is. But there's a plugin that allows quick commenting with a command, which is GCC. So I can quick comment because Vim is smart enough to know what file type you're in. So real quick, if I want to see the file type, set file type ? And this shows me that the file type is a Vim file. If you go to Python, it would be a Python file, or in Ansible. Vim knows what kind of file you're working with, and so that works with a commenting system. So if I want to do a comment, GCC is the keyword for comment as well as uncomment, and that also works with a number. So in this case, if I want to comment out Nerd Tree to GCC, now I have both of those commented. And so in this case, I would source, which is comma src. So I would source that. Actually, I forgot to save it. Save source, and then it's not plug install. Is it plug clean? There we go. Okay. Plug clean, and then I'm getting rid of plugins that I no longer need. Yep. And those are gone. So Nerd Tree is now gone. Yeah, now I have some sort of, I don't know, that might be a different plugin that's some sort of, I have no idea what that is actually. Some kind of broken Nerd Tree. Okay. Oh, I want to show you guys C#, and then we'll be done. It's actually, it's 20 after 8. Okay, real quick. Where am I? Okay. I had, when I was doing, I took the OSCP class, and I was, you write a lot of code in the OSCP class. So if you happen to be taking that class right now, you'll get a glimpse of some of the code, some of the custom code that I wrote. In that particular class, you do a lot of SQL hacking. In Microsoft SQL, it's almost obnoxious how much SQL hacking actually has to get done in that class. And now, the good news is that I learned a metric ton about hacking in SQL. And so what I did was I wrote a program. I use this as an opportunity to really just start getting back to writing C# code in Vim and expanding how I write C# code in Vim and compiling that same code from within Vim. So I'm going to SSH to my Kali box of SSH Kali VM. Maybe I'm not going to SSH anywhere. No such identity. I just did this. Like, I just did this. No. 192.245. Just started OSCP. All right. Nope. Man, no, I don't remember what the root password is to my Kali directory. Okay, let's do something different then. I can't believe it. That why on earth would that not work? In order to compile, let's do this. In order to compile, here, you know what? You guys give me just a second. I want to sort that out because that's really irritating. going to sort this out on a different machine. 2201. Sorry, I know you guys are still looking at my terminal. Bear with me. I was just in this stupid machine like a half hour ago, an hour ago. Yeah, 2.245. Oh, shoot. I got it. $600 to change the perms on the keys. Sorry, again, I know you guys can't see this. All right, not doing it. Nah, it's not tour. Or is it? Hold on. That would have been amazing. All right. No, it's not tour. Shoot. That's really frustrating. Anyways. All right. In order to work with Vim and C#, you need to have Mono installed in order to do this from a Linux machine. I had all this working on my Kali box, and now for some super irritating reason, I cannot get into it. I'm tempted to do I don't know, can I put up some technical difficulties thing while I get that working? 2245. Oh yeah? Huh. Well, makes sense why that wouldn't work. Oh, shoot. Ah, okay. Here we go. Got it working. SSH Kali. All right. Thank you for bearing with me. Okay, so this is my Kali machine, and this is the VM. This is the yeah, right. This is the. It's super embarrassing when you have demo fails. But like I said, I'm now empty on the Buffalo Trace, and so it's quite possible that I've hit Ballmer's Peak, which means I'm going to wrap this up here shortly. But what I did for taking the OSCP is got a dedicated Kali box, and that's really what I use for everything. And you can do this from like an Ubuntu box, or you can do this from Black Arch. You can use whatever you want. The truth is that you're taking an offset class, and so when you do that, it's really just best to use their stuff. It's really just meant for it. So download a Kali, and that's ultimately what I end up using for the whole thing. But again, like I said, you do a lot of SQL hacking, an irritating amount of SQL hacking, and I will go so far as to say a critical amount of SQL hacking. And so if you don't know that, and you get to the end of the class and you are not familiar with that, you're shooting yourself in the foot. So do not skip that module because it's an important module. But anyways, I wrote an app, and unfortunately, I'm not going to publish this, but just for the live stream audience here, I wrote an app called SQL Fire. Okay, and in this app, I was making changes very quickly. Like I would try something, it wouldn't work, I would have to make a change, and that change wouldn't work, and I would have to recompile it, and then you're doing all this from a virtual machine that they give you, which has Visual Studio installed, Visual Studio 2019. So the problem is that now you have Visual Studio 2019 that's running, and that is connected to a Samba share on my Kali box, and then I am running that code, and then I'm trying to transfer the code, and it's a huge nightmare. And I'm thinking to myself, if I could only do this from my Kali box, this would solve so much problems. Okay, and so I wrote this, and again, this is just the amount of code is kind of crazy, but this was just my attempt at really diving into putting together C# code putting together C# code and compiling it quickly. Damien MZ40, if you've hit that module, man, I'm right there. I'm right there with you. It's just right in the feels. But anyways, lots and lots and lots of code to make this work, because really what I wanted to do, my goal was and I'm trying to remember how that lab went, but you write some code and then it does some SQL stuff for you, and then you figure out if you get what you need from that, and then you take action accordingly. Well, what I wanted is I wanted all the action to be taken all the time. Like fire all the lasers all the time. And that's what I ended up coding. So I ended up coding things like linked SQL queries, and I am coding code execution via assembly DLL, like all kinds of stuff. I just dropped into the C# file. That is neither here nor there. What the point that I'm making is that I used Vim to do all of it. I shouldn't say that. I built out the initial file using Visual Studio, and then I used Vim to make code changes on the fly really, really quickly. And so to give you an idea just how that's done, you do need to have a program called Mono installed. In this particular case, it's just apt install Mono. Just having a quick look. If you have never worked with Mono, as I really hadn't before doing this, it's crazy how powerful this is. Mono has a truckload of functionality available to it, and all the way up to C# 6.0, it says partial for C# 7. I don't know about you guys, but I don't get into the really fine nitty gritty details about the various language versions, things like that. I remember really getting into things like link queries for C# 3.0, but honestly, that's about where I kind of stopped in terms of just really diving in to the version language. I generally just I'm a generic C# coder at best, and so that's it works well for what I need it for. I know the basic syntax. I've coded quite a bit of C# in the past, but for my purposes, Mono worked very, very good. And Mono has, if we actually look at installing, cool, on the Arch Wiki, because the Arch Wiki is amazing. They give you full instructions for installing Mono on Arch, at least. You simply just install the Mono package. And then in this case, you grab your C# file, you write out the code that you want, and then you use the MCS command to compile it. The MCS command, there's quite a bit to it. Vim program, Vim SQL Fire program. Okay. The MCS command, that's because I'm in my local machine. Let's hit F6, and now I am in Kali. MCS, there's a lot to it. Does it help? Okay. Lots and lots and lots of flags, including the reference flag. And the reference flag is important because it allows you to specify external assemblies. For those of you who are familiar with coding in C#, you'll know that one of the very, very first things you do, especially if you're coding with things like a database, you're coding against a data source. What are you going to do? You're going to add a reference to system.data, right? Well, how do you do that in Mono? Like, how do you tell Mono to compile with a specific assembly? And MCS allows you to do that. And so you can actually see the autocomplete, was it platform? There we go. So this was in the autocomplete. You can actually see the command, what command that I ran to, put together. Just take in an input file called evade.cs and output a file called evade.cs and input a file called program.cs. This command looks like a mistake on my part because that really should have been an exe. But if we look at how I was able to do compilation quickly, because this is important, in my Vim RC file, which is essentially the exact same Vim RC file we've been looking at all night, I added a line. Oops. This line right here. So that is leader CMP for compile. Okay. I'm doing a :w, and then I'm doing a :w, which is a write, and then in Vim, the exclamation point means essentially run an operating system command. Okay. Sorry, my dog is howling in the background. I'm running an operating system command. So I'm running the MCS command, specifying the platform, and then I'm specifying where I want it. The output file that I want to save it to, sqlfire.exe, and then I'm dropping in this reference, system.data. Okay? So, if I want to make some changes to this file, we're just going to go down to the main block here. Console, right line. Replace that. Okay. I don't have to save or anything. I simply hit leader CMP, and we see down here compiled. And then I could actually use mono to run this. I mean, obviously have no effect on Kali, but you can. The point that I'm making is you can use Vim to compile C# natively with mono and a pretty up-to-date version of the .NET framework and the C# language. And in my opinion, that's pretty powerful. I think there's a whole lot of really, really good uses for stuff like that, to be able to speak the Vim language, move quickly within the file, do some basic navigational things, write your code, do the compilation, do the testing, and then away you go. One last thing, and then I want to let you guys go for the night, and that is I wanted to show you a let's write some code for that is really cool. The last thing that I use pretty much all the time is a debugger, and you can use specifically for Python. There we go. Okay, so I am on. Oops. Okay. Let's Vim a file. I'm gonna call this file test.py. Okay. And really, all I want to do is I'm just gonna do something super simple, and that is I'm gonna set a variable to 0, and then I'm going to set that variable to 1, and then I'm gonna print out some stuff, and then that I'm like, seriously, that's it. Okay. Missing module docstring. Oh yeah, this is the Ale framework, which I have not gotten into, but I do not want the stream to go on absolutely all night. This is really one thing that I just want to show you guys, and that is debugging. One of the best features, seriously, of using tools like code or things like that is being able to just do live debugging, right? So you pull up code, you type some stuff, whether it's PowerShell, whether it's Python, C#, whatever, and then you hit the little debugger icon and you hit the play button, and then you're running, and you can debug stuff, and you can actually see and interrogate variables. That's super powerful, and it helps you move very quickly. And I wanted something like that. I wanted to be able to do that in Vim because I want to use Vim in a similar way. Because again, I want to speak the language. I want to move quickly. I want to get my work done. I want to do my commits. And then I want to do my testing. And then I want to be done. And so with something as simple as this, with what's called IPDB, which is the, let me double check and make sure I have that right. IPDB, the Python debugger. You can actually get a Python, an integrative and interactive Python debugger shell live when you're running code. Okay, and you do that, you can insert breakpoints just as you would with like any other IDE. Okay, only in this case, I have some code, A, B, where are you at? Right here, this line. This line uses AB, which is essentially Vim's alias. If I type the letters BP, it adds this statement. Okay, BP space, it adds that statement. Oh, doggone, it's still in the browser. Hey, this guy, yeah, you guys see the browser. So I need you to join next time because you're the one who's really good about telling me if I have not switched scenes properly in OBS because I get excited. So just let me know if I keep doing it wrong. Okay, sorry. In my Vim file, my vimrc file. And by the way, thanks for sticking in with me this long because I'm a little scatterbrained tonight. If you haven't noticed, but in my vimrc file, I have this line right here, which is first mod, which is AB, which is basically just Vim's alias, and it is for the letters BP is the alias, and then thanks for KJO Taku, thanks for joining. By the way, chances are, like if I know you from Twitter and you just like change your handle, I'm sorry if I don't know who you are. Feel free to hit me up on Twitter. Anyways, this alias right here, BP, will add what's essentially a breakpoint in IPDB. And so the way that works is you just go to insert mode and then type BP space, and now I have essentially a breakpoint right at that line. How does this work in practice? Okay, so I have my stupid little Python here. Okay, if I run it, Python, what do I even call that? Python 3 test.py, it prints some stuff. Okay, but let's say that I add a breakpoint right here and then run the same command. Notice what's happened. IPDB sees that and steps in. And now I can do things like print, or like I can interrogate, variables. You catch on to that? So in this case, all I did was type I, and it showed me what the current value of I was. This is really awesome. This allows you to do a full interactive debugger with Python just using Vim and the terminal. And this is how I do my Python coding. So I use FZF for fast file switching and loading of buffers. I use IPDB to do the debugging of the Python files in like real time. And then I use Vim Fugitive to commit my changes. And by the way, there's a, like, you can step into functions, you can step over functions, like all of the standard debug functions that you expect from any IDE, you can do with IPDB. Okay, and it's super fast. OJ had a good Vim series. You're gonna have VODs or YouTube after his first 60 minutes. Yes, I am going to probably throw this up on YouTube. This is a really long stream, and so what I think I want to do is maybe cut this down into more digestible chunks, like digestible videos. That way I can be a little more focused and, just make the content, like 10 minutes. Here's how you use, IPDB. 10 minutes. Here's how you use Vim Fugitive, and, that kind of thing. just because on live stream it's fun, but you also see, all my mistakes and, all the time that I spend either drinking or screwing up my SSH sessions, or it's real life. That's how I work during the day. So, and not except for the drinking part. But yeah, to directly answer your question, I will probably take some of this content and make actual YouTube videos. And if nothing else, I will just drop the whole thing out there, on YouTube. But honestly, I don't know. If you guys would sit there and listen to me ramble for an hour and a half on YouTube, that's pretty impressive. A live stream is one thing because we get the interaction, but quite honestly, I think 10-minute sections or 5 or 10-minute sections of just here's how to do like small things. All right. 45 minutes of me rambling on you. Well done. 45 minutes of me rambling on YouTube. Yeah, I'll just slice out all of the stuff where I'm just like screwing up commands. That's hilarious. But anyways, yeah, I probably will do something like this on YouTube just because I think that would be a little more helpful and digestible. And quite honestly, to be like CypherCon demo. Oh my gosh. Heading back to OSCP. Hey, Damien, good luck, my friend. I don't remember exactly what 5122 is, but I'm sure it's really difficult, just like a lot of the extra miles were. So best of luck to you, and stay in touch and let me know how it goes with the test, because I love hearing about that. To give you a little bit of comfort, the one of the mods dropped this in chat. There's a Discord where all the OffSec mods hang out, and a lot of students hang out and things like that. And they said that the test is really designed to test what you learn in the course. So it's a little different than OSCP, where like anything can happen. The test is really focused on the lab on the material. So hopefully that gives you a little bit of comfort. But anyways, yeah, best of luck to you. So yeah, I will put this stuff on YouTube, and yeah, and that's just about it. So that's about all I had as far as prepared stuff. Thanks for hanging with me again. Like I said, pretty scatterbrained tonight, but hopefully you all learned something, at least how I use Vim. And I think what we'll probably do next time is I'm toying with the idea, and I'll for those of you still hanging around, you guys get to make this decision. I'm toying with the idea of either doing a stream on building a link to my YouTube. No, because I don't actually have one yet. No, but I'm gonna cut these. I'm gonna slice and cut these videos, and I'll throw one out there, and I'll drop it on Twitter. But no, I don't have one just yet, because quite honestly, this is all brand new to me. But anyways, what I was thinking about doing was either a stream on Ansible, a stream on building out an Arch VM, or a stream on actually just diving into like writing a coding project and talking through using Vim and debugging as we actually do the coding project. Do you guys have any input on that? Curious. Ansible plus Terraform. I don't know. I would have to learn Terraform. I don't use Terraform for anything. All sounds great. Love to see Ansible. Okay. All right. 2 votes for Ansible. I probably just use Ansible and or just it's cool. I have a lot of my buddies have told me to get into Terraform, and I can explain on a different stream why I use Terraform the way that I use it. Coding project, Xbox, and stock checker. Yes, like I mentioned last week. Yes, yeah. All right. So I committed to that. You're right, and that is something that I will also commit up to GitHub. So next week we will incoming another hour of stream talking about no. I'm not going for another hour. Look, I have to play Division. All right, Division is like next on my priority list. So okay. All right, so I got a lot of votes for Ansible. I did, however, commit to each of these things. Arch Linux that ends up building out a lab. Totally. Yep, I hear you. So, all right. So here's what I'm gonna do. Because I committed to that Python script. Next week, I'm gonna code up the Python script that I used to. Where's the box? Ah. sends me a pushover whenever these became available. Xboxes. Oh man, so good. If you guys play Division, then Destiny 2 is great. All right, so I think I know who you are, and you might need to leave because nothing's better than Division 2. But anyways, what I did was I wrote a script that send me it went out to Best Buy's website and checked the page to see if the Xbox was ever not sold out, and it ran every like 10 seconds, and it would send me a pushover alert whenever it was marked not sold out, and I used that to get the jump on some of the other alerting streams. So like on Twitter, like there's an Xbox, like some dude who, like drops alerts whenever the Xbox Series X drops, and so I was about 3 minutes ahead of him because I was watching, and I saw several drops that I actually didn't get, and then I finally got one, and I was about 3 minutes ahead of the Twitter notices that came out, so that's how I actually landed one. So I did commit to that. So I will. Next week we will build that out. I don't think it'll take too long, but you'll actually get to see, writing out the code and stuff like that. And then the week following, we'll dive into Ansible. And really, the best way to do that is build out a VM. I'll just start from a blank VM, and we'll go from there. And then build out an actual playbook to do installation of stuff. And then I'll commit up the playbook to Git or GitHub, so you guys can take that playbook and do whatever you want with it. The Alice scripts are already out there, so if you do want to build out an Arch VM, if you want to get a jump on this and you want to actually work with me, stand up an Arch VM and use the Alice script to do that. It's not hard. And if you want to see content on that, I'm happy to do that. But quite honestly, you just boot up off the Arch ISO. You get the script on there, the alice.conf and the alice.sh file. Run it, and then you have a working Arch VM. And then just save a snapshot, and then you'll be ready to go. It's pretty straightforward. So do that. And then so the next week we'll do the Python stuff. The week after that we'll do some Ansible stuff. Hopefully that sounds like a plan. But I appreciate hanging out with all you guys. I wish it was a little more interactive, just because for me it's just me talking for an hour and 45 minutes. Oh my gosh. And you guys watching me screw up my terminal and all kinds of stuff. But hopefully you all enjoyed it, and it's been a ton of fun. And I don't know, it's just a good time. So with that, I'm going to sign off. I'm going to sign on to my Xbox and get some Division 2 going. So if you guys are ever interested and you want to jump online, hit me up on Twitter, and I'll shoot you my gamer tag. But again, I'm on Xbox. So been lots of fun. You guys have yourself a great night. Hey, thanks again for everyone joining and leaving comments. I really do appreciate it. It lets me know that people are actually watching and hopefully getting something out of it, because that means a lot to me. So you guys all take care and have a great night.